There was a knock at the door that shouldn't have meant anything but did. It was too sharp, too confident. 3 precise hits like a signal. I was in the garage, fixing the shelf she said was leaning weird even though it wasn't. I heard it echo through the house. Something in the rhythm of it scratched at me. I came in slow, hands dusty, and saw her already halfway down the stairs, brushing imaginary lint off her sweater and moving like she knew exactly who it was. That's when the dog barked. He only barked at strangers. Not friends. Not family. Strangers. She flinched. Subtle, but it was there. She opened the door like she was opening a secret, and in walked the strangest man I've ever seen in my own home, her brother. But not the one I knew. Not Nate the loudmouth. This version looked like a man pressed through a vice, sweaty, jittery, eyes moving like flies. He didn't say hi to me. He didn't even pretend. What the hell is going on? I asked. She didn't answer. She just looked at him. He looked at her. Then back at me. I need a favor, he said. His voice was cracked glass. A serious one. There's a sound the world makes when something vital snaps. It isn't loud. It's more like an absence of everything else. That's what I heard as he sat down like he owned the place, pulled out a manila envelope from his coat and dropped it on the dining table. She didn't stop him. She didn't even blink. I didn't sit. I stood behind the chair like a judge in a room that had suddenly become a courtroom. The envelope stared back at me. What is this? My wife spoke for the first time, and her tone was thin ice stretched over deep water. It's something we need to handle as a family. That word. We. That's when the world shifted a few degrees off its axis. I opened the envelope. Inside was a mess of bank documents, credit slips, wire transfers, late notices, one after another, proof of a mountain of debt stacked in Nate's name and somehow mine. Co-signed. My name. My signature. Forged. I felt something in my chest convulse. I never signed any of this. My voice came out quieter than I expected. She turned her back to me, walked to the window and said, "We didn't think it would get this bad. I couldn't even feel my hands anymore." I walked over to her, not touching, not yelling, just watching her. She wouldn't meet my eyes, but I kept mine locked on hers. "Tell me you didn't do this." "Nothing." "Tell me this isn't real." Still nothing. Then she finally turned, but not with remorse, with something colder, defensive, almost bored. He had no one else. What was I supposed to do? Let him drown. "You let me drown," I said. "You let me work 12-hour shifts while you were..." Doing what, exactly? That's when the fuse finally lit. The dining room became a war zone. She raised her voice, not in fear, not in guilt, but like I was the irrational one. Like this betrayal was just an accounting error. She said things I couldn't unhear, threw years of shared life into the fire like it was nothing. And the way Nate sat there, silent but smug, was worse than anything. He knew I wouldn't hit him. He knew I wouldn't touch her. He knew I was trapped in the image of a man too stunned to even walk away. Then came the final blow. Not screamed. Not spat. Just calmly stated, like a weather report, "We need your $25,000. The savings I had scraped together over 8 years. For a house upgrade. For security. For us. We. I repeated. You and him. Her lips curled in that small, cruel way I'd never seen before. The kind of look someone gives when they've already decided you're expendable. That money is just sitting there, and right now we have bigger problems than your pride. It wasn't the words. It was the ease with which she said them. Like I was an ATM with feelings she didn't bother pretending to respect anymore. That's when I realized this wasn't about family. Or helping anyone. This was an ugly performance to force me into saving my brother-in-law with the money I bled years to save, all while my wife stood by his side, the same woman who betrayed me when I needed her most. Love doesn't just break, it twists the knife when it's false. And the knife was already in. I just hadn't felt the full turn yet. I didn't speak for a full minute after she said it. Not because I didn't have words. No, my mind was flooded with them, loud, jagged, choking me from the inside out. But my body just stood there, locked in place like my skin had frozen around my bones. It wasn't the request that shattered me. It was the certainty in her voice. The calmness. The utter lack of fear or shame. She truly thought I would give it to them. I moved slowly, methodically. pulled out a chair across the table from Nate, sat down, and looked him dead in the eye. "You forged my signature," I said. He opened his mouth, closed it, thought better of lying. He gave a single nod, eyes flicking nervously to her. "I didn't have a choice," he said. "I was desperate. You could have asked me. You would have said no. That was the point." That's what they never said out loud, but it was carved into every second of this entire setup. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a planned ambush. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed like she was bored, tired of all the emotions. She used to lean against that wall to flirt with me while I cooked. Now she looked like she was guarding the exit, keeping me in place while they milked the last of me. "How long?" I asked her without looking. "What? How long have you two been working this angle behind my back?" She shrugged. Like the timeline didn't matter. Like truth itself was a formality. "I don't know, a few months. Things got complicated." That word. Complicated. The coward's word for betrayal. I stood up, walked to the sink. My hands needed something to do. I turned on the water, let it run over them. The rush of it was louder than anything in the room. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to vanish into the water. I wanted to unknow all of this. "I want both of you out of this house. Tonight." She laughed. Like I was the guest here, not her. "You think you can just kick me out over this? Over helping my brother?" "You didn't help him," I snapped. "You helped yourself to my money, my name, my life. You built this damn scheme in my house. And now you're gonna stand there and act like it's a misunderstanding." Her eyes narrowed, but I saw it. That flicker of fear. Not from guilt. From realization. She was losing control of the narrative. "You think any judge is going to believe you didn't know?" she said quietly, venom laced with calculation. "That you had no idea your name was on those documents? That all this happened behind your back?" There it was. The veiled threat. If I didn't go along, she'd drag me down with them. She was playing the long game. Blackmail with a smile. "You're insane," I said. "You're actually insane." "No," she said. "I'm practical. And I'm not letting you tank this family because your ego can't handle one hard decision." "Family?" I laughed, but it came out all wrong. It cracked in the middle like glass under pressure. "You killed that word the moment you decided I was just another tool in your toolbox." Nate stood up then. His hands were trembling. "Look, man. I get it. You're pissed. I screwed up. But this isn't just about money. I've got people who stop," I said. "You're not my problem anymore." I turned back to her. "You have 5 minutes. Then I'm calling the cops. I'll show them everything. The papers. The signatures. The footage from the doorbell cam that shows him walking in here with that envelope. All of it." Her face changed then. The smugness fell away like a broken mask. She didn't speak. For the first time in that whole horrific night, she looked uncertain. "You're bluffing," she said, quieter now. "Try me." The next few minutes were pure chaos. Nate shouting, her yelling at him, her yelling at me, grabbing a bag and shoving things in it like she was the victim of some injustice. She screamed something about betrayal, about loyalty, about how everything I ever did was for us. No, it wasn't. It was for them, her and her walking disaster of a brother. The same two people who sat across from me and asked for my future like it was an old jacket I didn't need anymore. She walked out without looking back. Nate trailed behind her, defeated but defiant, muttering under his breath. I didn't follow. I stood there in the wreckage, the table still covered in documents that smelled like smoke even though nothing had burned. But something had ended, something real, and I hadn't even started to feel the weight of it yet. The house went still. It was the kind of silence you don't hear. You feel it. In your lungs. In the floorboards. In the clock that suddenly ticks louder than it did 5 minutes ago. I didn't move. Couldn't. My legs were heavy. Like someone had poured cement into my knees the moment they stepped out the door. The manila envelope still sat on the table like a crime scene artifact. I stared at it. Couldn't touch it. Touching it felt like accepting that all of this was real. That this was my life now. A husband tricked into co-signing a disaster. A house that no longer felt like mine. Savings I would never see again. But then, just as I thought it was over, My phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Immediately another message came through, this time a text. You'll regret this. Just remember who knows where your skeletons are buried. I stared at it. Cold. Blunt. Direct. No name. But I knew the voice behind it. Her. She wasn't done. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was war. A psychological one. The kind where you don't know where the landmines are until you step on them. I deleted the message, saved the number, and took screenshots anyway. Just in case. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with every light in the house on. My laptop open, typing and deleting a dozen different things. Emails to lawyers I didn't send. Posts to forums I didn't submit. I opened the bank apps. All of them. Checked every transaction, every credit line. I wasn't just looking for proof anymore, I was looking for fingerprints. The places she'd touched without me knowing. And oh, she touched everything. There was a second account in my name. Opened months ago. A credit card I'd never applied for with charges from restaurants I'd never been to on dates I remembered being home alone. Hotel stays I could now place with her team retreats. Thousands of dollars spent with my name on the bill. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a campaign. Organized. Ruthless. I printed everything. Started a folder. The kind of folder you don't build unless you're preparing for a war in court. At 4:12 a.m., the doorbell rang. I froze. No knock. Just the bell. Once. The camera feed showed no one. Just a single envelope placed square in the center of the welcome mat. I waited a full minute before opening the door. Picked it up with gloves. Inside, a USB drive and a note written in her handwriting. Since you want to play dirty, let's see how far you're willing to go. No signature. No explanation. I didn't plug it in. Not then. I wasn't going to let her drag me down without knowing the rules of the game. She wanted chaos. I needed clarity. So I did something strange. I made coffee. Strong. Sat down at the table where everything started. The air still smelled like tension. I looked around the room at the life we'd built, decorations she picked, furniture I paid for, walls that held more lies than love. And I remembered a night 3 months ago when she came home drunk, claimed it was her boss's birthday. I'd found her on the patio, shoes off, mascara smudged, holding a glass of wine like it was a trophy. She kissed me that night, too hard, too loud, like she was trying to bury something. I thought she was just tired. Now I knew she was guilty. I opened a new document on my laptop and began writing everything down, every strange moment, every red flag I'd ignored, every unexplained charge, every conversation where something felt off. Because I realized this wasn't just about the money. It was about reclaiming my story before she wrote the ending for me. And I wasn't going to let her. I hadn't opened the USB yet, but I would. And when I did, I had a feeling everything I thought I knew about how far this went would blow wide open. I stared at the USB drive like it was a loaded weapon. It sat there on the table, small and silent, daring me to find out what she thought would break me. Or silence me. Or manipulate me into crawling back into whatever twisted narrative she was building behind the curtain. I took a long breath and plugged it into my old work laptop, one I hadn't used in over a year, completely isolated from anything personal. I wasn't about to open whatever trap she'd mailed me on my main system. She might have underestimated a lot of things about me, but she forgot one detail: I work in cybersecurity. There were 2 files. One video. One folder labeled Memories. I clicked the video first. It opened on a grainy hallway feed, hotel security footage. Silent. Timestamped 2 months ago. My wife stepping out of a hotel room wearing a red dress I'd never seen before. Hair curled. Lipstick too bright. She was laughing. With a man behind her. He wasn't her brother. He was tall, suit half undone, and he put his hand on her lower back like he'd done it 1,000 times. She didn't flinch. She leaned into him. They kissed at the elevator. The kind of kiss you save for someone you think is yours. I paused it. Didn't even watch the rest. I didn't need to. I knew what I was seeing. The business trip to Dallas she told me about. I even remembered the lie. Client dinner ran late, babe. I'm crashing in the hotel. She sent me a picture of room service, 2 plates. I'd asked why and she said order too much. She wasn't lying about that part. I opened the folder next. Memories. Inside, screenshots. Phone call logs between her and the same number. Multiple times a day. At all hours. Photos. Some cropped from social media, others taken on her phone, selfies in bathrooms that weren't ours, photos in bars with him, even one where they're at a beach I'd never been to, holding hands in the reflection of her sunglasses. Then there was a document at the bottom. A note. He knew. He just didn't want to admit it. And now he has to. That was for me. She wanted me to see this. It wasn't a threat, it was a performance. A show of power. As if to say, I've already taken everything. Why not your piece too? I sat there frozen, but not in the way she probably hoped. I wasn't broken. I wasn't in shock. I was sharpening. Because suddenly it made sense. The confidence, the calm, the look she gave me like I was the dumbest person in the room. She had a plan. That $25,000? That wasn't for Nate. That wasn't for debts. That was a test. A trigger. Something bigger was waiting behind it. And this drive? This wasn't the full attack, it was a distraction. Emotional warfare designed to keep me in chaos while she made her next move. So I made mine. I called my friend Mark, a real estate lawyer who owed me a favor, told him I needed to move fast, asked about locking down shared assets, freezing joint accounts, getting a forensic financial review. Then I called a PI. Not for her. I didn't need more photos of her with other men. I wanted to know what she'd been building. The accounts. The fake credit lines. The lies. The forged signature. She wasn't just cheating. She was orchestrating something long-term. And if I was right, the affair wasn't the betrayal. It was the cover. I was halfway through disconnecting the drive when I got another text. Same number. You should have just played along. You're going to regret what comes next. No punctuation. No emotion. And for the first time in this nightmare, I felt something unexpected. Clarity. She didn't know me at all. She thought I'd fold, break, give in, like she thought she knew the man she married. But she didn't marry a coward. She married someone who could dismantle systems for a living. And now I was turning that skill inward. Let her make the next move. I was already 10 steps ahead. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way she expected. That kind of rage burns hot and fast, it clouds judgment, gets people sloppy. No, what I felt now was surgical. Precise. Like the scalpel edge of focus before an operation. The emotion had drained, replaced by calculation. She wanted to draw blood. I was going to draw a map. A detailed, unforgiving map of how deep this went and exactly how to cut it out of my life without leaving even a scar behind. The PI I hired, Raymond, called me less than 24 hours after I sent him everything I had. She's been busy, he said. And those 3 words hit harder than anything on that USB. He broke it down like a report. No drama. No embellishment. 6 months ago, she opened a P.O. box under her maiden name. 4 months ago, she filed paperwork for a limited liability company, consulting services, vague wording, no real business. 3 months ago, she purchased a used BMW under that company's name, paid in full, with a cashier's check drawn from a credit union account she opened in a city we never visited together. The icing on the cake. 2 weeks ago, she signed a lease agreement for a downtown apartment, furnished, move-in ready, under her new name. She was building a second life. While sleeping in my bed. This wasn't a betrayal. It was an escape plan. One that I wasn't supposed to find out about until she was long gone and I was buried in debts I didn't make, watching my credit fall apart while she vanished with her new name, new boyfriend, new money. But she moved too soon. Sending that USB? That was a mistake. That was ego. She thought I was still the man who'd beg for answers. Instead, I was the man drafting legal letters with timestamps and receipts. By the end of the day, I had filed a fraud report with my bank, frozen all shared accounts, and reported unauthorized activity on my credit. The car? Reported. The credit union account? Flagged. The P.O. box? Already under surveillance by Raymond's people. And I wasn't even close to finished. I printed the lease she signed for the apartment and cross-checked the signature. She used a variation of my name as an emergency contact. It was a trapdoor. If things went south, she'd claim she did it all with my blessing. But not anymore. That night, I drove to the new apartment. I didn't knock. I just waited across the street. She came home at 11:18 p.m. With him. Not Nate. The man from the hotel footage. He carried her purse like they were already settled into domestic routines. She was laughing. That same laugh I used to think was mine. She didn't see me. Didn't feel the weight of my stare from the dark. But something inside me settled. Solidified. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't defeated. I was done. Done pretending I didn't know the truth. Done waiting for apologies. Done bleeding for people who sharpened knives behind my back. The next morning she came back to the house. Brazen. Like nothing had changed. Walked into the kitchen like she forgot she mailed me her affair on a silver drive. Jake, she said casually like we were in the middle of a normal Tuesday. We need to talk about the money. I think you're overreacting. I let her talk. She spun a new story this time. Said she was set up by Nate, that she didn't know about the fake accounts, that we could fix this if we just worked together. Then she paused. Looked around the house like something was off. What's that smell? She asked. Fresh paint, I said. I had the locks changed too. She blinked. What? I filed for separation. You'll be getting served soon. Her eyes darkened, but I saw the panic behind it. The quick flick of her gaze to the stairs, probably wondering if she left anything upstairs she could use to spin this her way. Jake, don't be stupid. I smiled. Not kindly. Already was. Not anymore. She stood there a moment too long. Like she was waiting for me to cave. Waiting for the version of me she could guilt, manipulate, or threaten into silence. Instead, I walked past her. Opened the front door. Motioned toward it. You don't live here anymore. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just walked out. That was when I knew I'd won the first battle. But there were still 9 more steps ahead. And I was ready for every one of them. She didn't take the hint. Not really. 2 days after I told her she didn't live here anymore, I got an email from a lawyer. Her lawyer. The subject line, urgent matter regarding property and shared finances. That was her way of dressing up a hand grenade in a velvet box. The body of the email was short. She wanted a civilized discussion regarding her entitlements. Half the house. Half the savings. Spousal support. Even part of my retirement fund. No mention, of course, of the forged signature, the fake business account, or the mountain of debt she tied around my name like a noose. This wasn't a negotiation. It was extortion by etiquette. I didn't respond. I let my attorney handle it. He was good, quiet, strategic, the kind of man who never raised his voice because he knew his words could do more damage when delivered cold. He read the email twice, then looked up at me and said, "She's expecting you to panic." "She's not expecting me to know everything," I said. We filed the paperwork that day. Full petition for divorce, immediate motion to protect all remaining assets, and an attached list of every piece of evidence I had: fraud, financial abuse, willful concealment, and an addendum for the digital harassment. My lawyer smiled like a surgeon preparing for a complicated but ultimately winnable procedure. And that's when things got strange. A week later, I came home to find the mailbox ripped open. Not tampered with. Destroyed. Bent metal, mail scattered. My neighbors saw her. Said she was just checking for something she might have forgotten. I reported it. Filed a police report. Quietly had my security cameras upgraded. Then came the flood. Blocked numbers. Late-night calls that rang once, then stopped. Anonymous tips sent to my employer about questionable behavior that never existed. Even a fake LinkedIn account that mirrored mine, using a different photo, posting things meant to stir trouble. She was unraveling but trying to take me with her. And I hadn't even played my biggest card yet. The forensic accountant came back with results. Her fake LLC had over $70,000 in movement in just 3 months. Some of it from our joint funds. Most of it wired in from other sources. She was funneling money, laundering it through this pretend consulting company and draining it into private accounts. Here's the part that truly gutted me. 2 of those deposits were traced back to Nate. He wasn't just the addict brother or the deadbeat screw-up. He was a partner. They were in on it together. Running a pipeline. Maybe more. And she had the gall to look me in the eye and say, "We just need to fix this." The moment I saw the transaction logs, something in me clicked. I printed everything. Packaged it. Sent copies to my lawyer, the IRS, and my local precinct. Quietly. No warnings. No threats. She wanted to play civil. I brought fire. Then I did something she never expected. I met with Nate. I arranged it through Raymond. Had him invite Nate under the pretense of a business opportunity. Some new crypto venture needing advice. Nate showed up at a coffee shop downtown. Alone. When I walked in, the look on his face was gold-plated fear. He stood up. Jake, look, I didn't know I sat down. Put my phone on the table. Hit record. I don't care about your excuses, I said. You're going to give me names. Transactions. The full story. Or I send every document I have to the state attorney's office and watch you drown. He tried to bluster. I just sat there, calm. Then he broke. 30 minutes later, I walked out with a confession. Not written, but recorded. Names. Amounts. Timeline. She wasn't just planning to leave. She was planning to bury me in the rubble. But now I had the blueprint. The war had changed shape. This wasn't just a messy divorce or a bitter breakup. This was a financial crime ring dressed up as a broken marriage. And I was done playing defense. The fuse she thought she lit? I just turned it around. She had no idea what was coming next. I didn't sleep the night after the Nate meeting. Not from stress. From clarity. There's a terrifying sort of calm that hits once you know exactly what you're up against. She wasn't a mystery anymore. She wasn't the woman I married or even a stranger. She was an operator, cold, ambitious, calculating. I don't think she ever loved me. I think I was just the easiest mark. But now I had her entire scheme in the palm of my hand. And I was done being reactive. It was time to dismantle everything she built methodically, publicly, legally. First thing next morning, I handed Nate's recorded confession to my lawyer. He raised his eyebrows when I told him I got it in person. Bold move, he muttered, reviewing the transcript. We need to go nuclear, I said. Let's make sure she's not just losing the divorce. She's losing the mask. He smiled faintly. We'll bury her in subpoenas. Within 48 hours, we filed to freeze every account linked to her name and her fake LLC. We filed motions for emergency financial injunctions. My lawyer requested a forensic audit of all marital finances going back 3 years. The moment that hit her inbox, the gloves came off. That same afternoon, she showed up at my house. No warning, no text, just appeared at the front door like a storm in a sundress. I didn't open it. She stood there knocking, calm at first, then louder. Then came the shouting. Jake, you're out of your mind. You think you can just erase me? You think anyone will believe your version over mine? I watched from the hallway, phone recording everything. The camera above the door catching it all. Her rage, her threats, her trying to rattle the doorknob like she still lived here. I made this house what it is. She screamed. You just paid the bills. There it was. The line. The reveal. It was never ours. Just mine to maintain and hers to decorate until she cashed out. She left in a fury. Tore out of the driveway like she wanted the tires to leave scars. That same evening, her lawyer sent an email demanding we cease all retaliatory legal actions. Claimed I was harassing her family. Called my visit with Nate a premeditated ambush. We responded with copies of the financial records, the confession, and a promise to file for criminal charges if they pushed forward. She went quiet after that. For 3 days. Then came the leak. Someone emailed my company's HR department with a heavily edited audio clip of me yelling. No context. Just my voice raised, clipped out of an old argument with her. They claimed abusive behavior, even tried to make it sound like a workplace complaint. It didn't work. My boss brought me into the office, sat me down, and just said, she's desperate. We're not idiots. Still, the audacity stunned me. She was burning every bridge, not just mine, hers too. Because now she wasn't just losing. She was flailing. She thought she could weaponize the court of public opinion. But she forgot one thing. I had the truth. And the truth doesn't flinch under pressure. So I made a choice. I compiled everything: financial fraud, emotional manipulation, identity theft, the confession, the stalking, the harassment, the coordinated smear attempts, and sent it to the State Fraud Division. A formal complaint. Every document notarized. Every timeline matched. Witnesses listed. Sources verified. My attorney called it a strategic decapitation. I just called it justice. The day after the complaint was filed, Raymond called. He'd been monitoring her movements for weeks now. Said she was back in the apartment she leased. Alone. No visits from Nate. No visits from the mystery boyfriend. Her new life was unraveling faster than she could rebuild it. And then, just when I thought the hurricane was passing, she tried one more thing. She filed a countermotion in court, claimed I had coerced her, that I had used emotional leverage to control her finances, and that everything she did, every account, every transaction, was under duress. That's when I walked into court with a thumb drive and a folder. One contained the confession. The other? A copy of her text. You'll regret this. Just remember who knows where your skeletons are buried. It was over. The judge didn't smile. Didn't comment. Just said we'd reconvene in 10 days for final proceedings. But I saw it. The shift. She knew it too. This wasn't a chess match anymore. This was endgame point 10 days. That's how long the court gave us before the final hearing. 10 days to prepare, to finalize evidence, to untangle months, years of deception she thought would stay hidden under the wallpaper of a fake marriage. 10 days where I didn't hear from her once. Not a call. Not a message. Not a threat. It was like the silence that comes before a natural disaster. The kind you can feel in your bones, humming through the walls, waiting. So I stayed ready. My attorney prepped every detail. Depositions scheduled. Witnesses lined up. Financial audits fully traced and mapped with not just my name, but hers, proof of transfers, receipts, emails where she impersonated me, phone calls traced to burner numbers. She thought she could outmaneuver me. But what she forgot is I build systems designed to withstand attacks from people exactly like her. And I hadn't even shown the last card. 3 days before the court date, I get a call from Raymond. She's meeting someone tonight. Not the boyfriend. Not Nate. Someone new. Name's Marcus. No known connection. My stomach twisted. She wasn't done. She was shifting the plan again, adapting. This wasn't another boyfriend. This was an option. Pivot. So I had Raymond follow. That night, he sent me photos. Crisp. Timed. Location tagged. She and Marcus at a rooftop bar. Talking low. Not romantic. Transactional. He pulled the audio. All it took was a parabolic mic and patience. The recording wasn't perfect, but one line was as clear as glass. If he won't bend, we'll just say he hit me. Just like that. No emotion. No hesitation. She said it like it was just the next logical step. Not a lie. Not a nuclear option. Just a line in a play she'd already rehearsed. Raymond paused the recording. You want this sealed up tight? I nodded. Tighter than she ever thought possible. We got a notarized transcript. Filed it first thing next morning under preemptive defense. My attorney added it to the case file with everything else. She didn't know we had it. Not yet. The hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. downtown. She walked in like she was walking into a salon. Head high, sunglasses, smirk tucked neatly under a coat of fake calm. Her lawyer was younger, flashy, all teeth and showmanship. Mine was quiet, older, a little grizzled. He wore silence like armor. The judge walked in. Case was called. She tried to start with her emotional coercion angle. Her lawyer talked for 12 minutes straight, a rehearsed monologue about control, psychological pressure, financial dependency. The judge listened unmoved. Then it was our turn. My attorney didn't speak for long. Just handed over the packet. Then said, Your Honor, please find within the attached audio transcript and evidence materials a conversation between the plaintiff and an individual planning to submit a knowingly false domestic violence claim for the purpose of gaining leverage in court. The room froze. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then turned to her lawyer like she hadn't read the script he was working from. He looked pale. The judge read the top sheet. Flipped through. Looked back up. Do you have a response? He asked her directly. And in that moment, something cracked in her. She started to say something, then stopped. Her voice faltered. I didn't mean it like that. I was just, no, the judge cut in. Save it. I've seen enough. The next 15 minutes passed in slow motion. Her case? Dismissed. Her financial claims? Denied. Spousal support? Gone. Restitution for fraudulent activity? Pending. And the cherry on top? A court order for further investigation into potential criminal conduct by her. She didn't speak to me as she left. Didn't look at me. But her lawyer did. He looked like a man who realized he'd been handed a live grenade and told it was a flashlight. I walked out of that courthouse lighter than I'd felt in years. But I knew it wasn't fully over. She wasn't the kind to surrender. There was one final card she hadn't played yet. And I could feel her fingers itching toward it. The courthouse victory wasn't the end, it was the push that made her unravel. I knew at the moment I got back home. The stillness wasn't peace. It was the kind of quiet that comes before a scream. The house felt colder. Not in temperature, in weight. Like it knew what was coming. Like it was bracing for the next hit. And the next hit came fast. 2 days later, someone tried to break into my car. Sloppy job. Didn't even get past the alarm, but they left a calling card. A broken key jammed into the door, snapped off, still warm when I touched it. Not a theft. Not even an attempt. A message. I didn't report it to the police. I documented it. Because I knew it wasn't just random. It was her. Not directly, no. But someone acting for her. Someone angry enough to send a message, but not brave enough to leave a name. A ghost in cheap sneakers. That same night, my security cams caught someone standing at the end of my driveway. Just standing. Hoodie. Hands in pockets. Looking at the house for over 4 minutes. Then walking away. She was losing control. And with it, her subtlety. I called Raymond again. Track everyone she contacts. Emails. Burner phones. Bank statements if you can reach them. He didn't ask why. He just said, understood. Then came the twist I didn't expect. Nate called me. I let it ring out the first time. He called again. I picked up. Silence on the other end. Then a breath that sounded more like regret than air. She's off the rails, he said. No greeting. No apology. No spin. I thought she had a plan. He continued, voice hoarse. But I think she's gone past that now. She's trying to burn everything before it hits her. She already lost, I said. She knows it. Doesn't matter. You don't know her like I do. She doesn't accept loss. She rewrites it. I paused. Let the weight of that settle. Then he added something that snapped everything into focus. She's been talking to your ex. I froze. What ex? Emma. The one from before her. And just like that, I knew where this was going. She wasn't just trying to take me down. She was trying to rewrite who I was. If she could paint a version of me twisted enough, broken enough, if she could dig up enough old dirt and twist it into a new story, she could flip the whole game. Didn't matter that we were already mid-divorce. Didn't matter that court slapped down every claim she tried. She was building something else. A narrative. And narratives, when weaponized, are nuclear. I called Emma. We hadn't spoken in years. Ended things clean. I never held a grudge. But when I told her what was happening, I expected confusion. Surprise. Instead, she just sighed. She reached out last week, Emma said. Said she was doing a healing circle for survivors. Asked if I ever felt manipulated. Said it was anonymous. That you were getting help. She paused. I blocked her. That moment right there was when I realized the full extent of the madness. She wasn't trying to win in court. She was trying to win in history. To rewrite who I was. So even if she lost everything, she could still spin a legacy where she was the wrong party. Where the truth didn't matter. Only the story. And she was planting it brick by brick. Emma's warning came just in time. 2 days later, a blog post surfaced, anonymous, full of vague accusations. It never named me, but the details were too precise to be coincidence. The timeline mirrored mine. The profession. The city. A man with a mask, it said. A man who wears kindness like camouflage. It got traction. Of course it did. Because people love stories. Especially dark ones. I didn't panic. I archived it. And then I built my own. The receipts. The court documents. The surveillance. The recordings. The history. The IRS letters. The accounts. The security cam footage. The timeline of attacks, emotional, digital, reputational. I compiled it all into one document. A dossier. Not to publish. Not to attack. To finish. Because this was no longer about proving her wrong. It was about protecting what was real. My reputation. My sanity. My name. She wanted to drown me in her spiral. Instead, I was going to let her fall into her own reflection, and let the truth be the mirror that cracked. She always underestimated how quietly truth works. It doesn't shout. It doesn't swing wildly. It waits. It watches. It lets the lies pile up until they collapse under their own weight. And when they do, truth steps forward and doesn't need to say a word. The final collapse started with an email. Not from her. Not from her lawyer. From the state attorney's office. They'd reviewed my complaint, reviewed the financial documentation, the audio evidence, the statements from Nate, the digital trail that traced back through her fake company and forged accounts, and they were opening a formal investigation. Fraud. Identity theft. Wire transfer violations. Not speculation. Not warnings. An investigation. And then, the same day, a letter arrived. A cease and desist from her. Not about the divorce. Not about the fraud. About the blog post. She was accusing me of defamation for suggesting she authored a public narrative intended to slander and manipulate the perception of third parties. She was trying to shut down the truth before it could be weaponized against her. I didn't even flinch. I forwarded it to my lawyer, who filed a motion that included the cease and desist alongside the evidence of her direct communications with people from my past, the forged digital footprint, the staged recordings. It wasn't a defense anymore. It was a counterattack. We requested a restraining order, not just personal but digital. She would no longer be allowed to contact anyone in my life without it being considered an extension of her previous pattern of harassment and fraud. And the court granted it. The very next day. But what broke her wasn't the legal move. It was what followed. I didn't release my dossier online. I didn't post it. I shared it. To the people who mattered. Quietly. Directly. My employer. My closest friends. My professional network. All of them received one clean, calm message. There may be attempts to manipulate perception around my character. Please find the verified documentation here. I trust the truth speaks for itself. And then silence. No rants. No rebuttals. No feeding the fire she tried to start. And that's what did it. Because she expected noise. She expected rage. A battle in public. A storm of emotion. Instead, she got surgical precision. She tried to drag my name through the dirt. And I responded by pulling the foundation out from under her story. Document by document, calmly, efficiently, permanently. The final blow came from someone I never expected. Her second boyfriend, the one from the hotel, the rooftop bar. Marcus. He filed his own report. Turned out she had used his name to open another account. Took out a line of credit. Used it to funnel money into her failing LLC once I locked ours down. She didn't just burn the bridge. She set fire to the boat she was trying to escape on. The last I heard, she fled the apartment, defaulted on the car payments, and dropped off social media entirely. Nate disappeared too. Some say he went west. Others say rehab. I don't care. The house is quiet now. But not heavy like before. It breathes again. It lives again. Sometimes I walk into the dining room, the war zone, and just stand there. I look at the place where she dropped the envelope. The chair Nate sat in like a snake in a suit. The table that held the first cut. And I remember the line I wrote the night it all started. The dining room became a war zone. An ugly performance to force me into saving my brother-in-law with the $25,000 I bled years to save, all while my wife stood by his side, the same woman who betrayed me when I needed her most. Love doesn't just break, it twists the knife when it's false. Now that war is over. And I didn't just survive. I exposed the blueprint of her lies and walked through the fire holding the one thing she never understood had real power. Truth. If you're reading this and you see red flags, don't wait for the storm. Don't rationalize. Don't explain it away. Start documenting. Quietly. Patiently. Because when the mask falls, you won't have time to build your defense. You'll need it already in hand. And when it's over, don't look back. Some people aren't worth remembering. Only surviving. Jake.